season. Dan, you are very close to this team. What are your thoughts on what's going on?
I think it's embarrassing, Fred, to be honest with you. I just think it's, I don't know. I just keep shaking my head. I think like everybody else, anybody around the team that's been around the team for a long time, former players and what have you, was, from even Rafi Devers and everyone else, it's just like, I don't know. It's just very disappointing to see this from what I think has been a great ownership from day one here when they got here with John Henry and Tom Werner and Larry Lucchino. It just suddenly stopped in a lot of ways. And yes, they spend money. There's a payroll, but they're going to be about midway this year, 15th so.
And they're quite. They have if their argument was they didn't want to hit the luxury tax, they're tens of millions of dollars below it.
Yeah. So I mean, they had room. They still have room to go out and sign. And I know Boris is a holdup or what have you, but I think if you sign Jordan Montgomery and if you go out and sign, even Adam Duvall, bring him back here, I think everybody looks at it differently. So it's not that you're asking for much.
Adam Duvall.
Yeah, Duvall played way above his head for long periods of time last year, historically speaking. If you look at his statistics, he didn't approach that.
You know what I mean
from
the sense of I would have liked Jorge Soler. I would just like somebody else to show the fans that you're committed to what you're trying to do here.
How well do you know John Henry?
Not. I mean, I've known him for 25 years since he's been here, just to casually say hi.
Sure.
And, things like that.
But have you ever really talked to him off the record, and not even recently? Like, do you feel like you've gotten a sense of what kind of guy he's like?
He's actually a very good guy.
Okay, good. So you have.
Yeah.
So this is not I'm not making you uncomfortable anymore. This is a real question.
I know what you're saying.
Do you think that, because there's no way Henry bought this team just to make money. Like, Henry bought it because he wanted the cachet that came with owning the team.
He generally loved it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Remember, Fred, when he first got here, he would sit in his luxury box and he would have the windows open and he'd be soaking in the beautiful nights and things like that. He'd be pointing to the fans and loved it. Loved every second of it.
Okay, so then this is a team, we're never going to win anything. And then in 2004, they win a championship. Then they win multiple championships. Do you feel that he was like, well, why doesn't this town love me? Like, why am I being constantly insulted? Like, why is my baseball acumen and who I hire always being challenged? Do you think that he was just like, he's like just sort of over it, and so he doesn't even feel he's kind of like, why would I push every year to make this team a contender when at the end of the day you're just going to hate me anyway? And that's entirely in my own mind.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that far, but I get what you're saying. I think maybe more it's just he's burnt out from being
it kind of goes to say
a baseball owner.
Well, because here's the thing is because he won't talk to the media, and everyone who knows him says the reason he won't talk to the media is because he thinks the media will just twist what he says.
He's afraid to. You know what I mean?
Right.
Every time he says something, it gets taken and blown out and things like that.
But don't you think he would have thought when he bought the team, if you would have told him when he bought the team, in 2024, you're going to have this many championships, the team's going to have this run. Don't you think he would be like, wow, I'll be loved?
Look what I did. And we redid Fenway Park, renovated it over a 10-year period. We've brought 4 World Series titles that they hadn't had any since that Chris. Yes, that I thought he thought he'd be a beloved figure.
So I think
he's missing Larry Lucchino in his life right now. I really do. And I love Sam Kennedy.
We've talked about that. Larry was really good at running blocker those first 10 years.
But also Larry was good at pushing him and pushing the baseball ops guys. In December, early December, he'd be sitting there saying, we have to sell tickets. We have to go sell advertising. And he would say, guys, you got to go out and sign somebody. Go out and sign a Jordan Montgomery to get people excited about what's going on here. Larry had that good sense of business, and maybe people felt like he pushed it too far and what have you in his past relationships. He was tough to work for. But I think he was good for John, and he was not afraid to stand up there and say, this is what we're doing. This is what's best for the ownership. This is what's best for the fans, and this is what's best for baseball here in Boston, because we have to go against the evil empire. We have to keep up with them. We have to go battle and try to win a championship, because that's what it's all about here in Boston.
By the way, the Yankees are somewhat similar in that they spend a lot of money. You have an owner there, Steinbrenner, who is under the same part of the party. He got the Yankees a new ballpark. It's been a while since he's won a championship. He's won a championship since he took over for his father's estate. But fans are all over him. They speak terribly of him when the Yankees don't win.
All right, well,
the difference is he spends every year.
No, he went through a time where he didn't. But the fans are frustrated at Cashman, and also that fan base expects to win a World Series every year. It's a failure. I think the pressure on the Yankees is unlike any other organization in North American sports. But Steinbrenner's not hated like his dad was. But plus they care more about baseball in New York. You know that. I mean, if you listen to Sports Talk Radio in New York, they talk about baseball like a significant amount. It's just not as popular here anymore. But when you mention like John Henry and not wanting to talk to the media, and I understand he's not like his skills aren't his charisma and his social interactions. You know, his skills are elsewhere. It's like math and doing in business and that kind of stuff. But his business skills aren't shaking hands and kissing babies, right? Like he's like
he's not an outgoing person.
He's an odd fella. Like you read the arm when I always bring it up. I apologize, but Passan was with Lester when everyone was making their pitches to him, and he said that Lucchino and what's it? Jesus, I just said his name. Henry came in to pitch Lester, and it was like woof. Like Henry, and then Theo came in, and it was like, wow! It was like this insane pitch.
Actually, even in that movie, what's the one with Brad Pitt? Moneyball. Even the actor portraying John Henry is a very awkward, a very strange, awkward guy.
But he even seems happier in that movie because he's like, look at Fenway; it's so beautiful. And like,
he had just taken over at that point.
Yeah, I know, but yeah. But what I'm saying is like he's not this charismatic guy. But but I wonder if there's a part of him that's like, why, like, this is bull crap. Like, I've given you more than you ever expected, and you're in the way that you're just badmouth me every time I turn on the radio, which he does. You guys are badmouthing me, which leads me to a point that I've had because ever since I've been here, everyone craps on everyone. No. During the Bruins run, we weren't crapping on them. Celtics don't get a lot of crap thrown on them. The Patriots, you all fan base, I mean, they were gods to you. The Red Sox are consistently crapped on in this town. Like, it's just something that happens, and it makes me wonder. And Dan, I'll ask you. I don't know for a fact. It's just a theory that this town never really wanted a championship, because still, when I asked John the other day, what's everyone's favorite World Series for the Red Sox? It's 1975, a series that they lost. That's the one everyone talks the most about. That's the one that's in the baseball Ken Burns documentary. I understand it was made before, they won some of their titles, but nonetheless, it might have been made before 2004. But that's the one. Do you think that this is a town, because Chicago is, the Cub fans are, do you think this is a town that was a little bit happier in the long run before they had won the championship?
I think so. I think what happened was, I think we all thought this as they were going through it, is what happens if they win? What happens if they finally break the curse? How is life going to be after that? And I think it kind of changed the passion of Red Sox fans in a lot of ways, even though they followed up with another one in 2007, and then they won in 13 and 18. I think everything changed after that. Just that deep down, woe is us, look at us, we're the underdogs, we're never going to win. I think people kind of like that. And, maybe it just carried over, and it hasn't been the same.
And it's almost like a muscle
same
that
as the
people
Cubs,
have. Yeah, well, the Cubs, they're not going to games. I mean, the Cubs fans don't care at all. They didn't want to win that. It took every little the Cubs fans were nauseating with that crap.
But I do think that maybe goes hand in hand with what you're saying, Fred. I think John Henry maybe looks at this team and says, what do these fans want? If I pour all this money in and we do win another championship, what will it do for them? Will it satisfy them? Because I think in 2018, they had the greatest Red Sox team ever assembled, and it didn't seem the joy was there.
No,
from a fan base.
No,
it's and I always go back to, I think it's stars. I think Red Sox fans want stars more than anything else.
Well, you had the biggest star in town that you're ever going to get for the Red Sox.
Well, and I think they screwed up going back a while with how they negotiated, and going back and forth. Do we sign a big deal? Not a big deal. I think they screwed up a lot of deals that way, and I think it turned the fan base angry against them even more so because they didn't keep John Lester, who was really popular, knew how to win. They didn't keep Mookie Betts. They didn't keep Xander Bogaerts. and they didn't act when they should have acted. That's the problem with me is go get these guys and secure them early and just get a deal done. And you see it, with a lot of other teams, and you see it's growing increasingly now more and more. And it's harder, I think, in baseball to do these when they're young type of deals. But I think they screwed that up badly, and I think now the fans are just like, they want their stars. They want, you go to a game and all people say, I miss Mookie Betts. I miss Xander Bogaerts. I miss Jackie Bradley Jr.
Yeah, but you weren't happy when you had him. And the thing is that
it's interesting. Not Jackie Bradley Jr.
Okay, thank you for changing.
No, you know what I mean.
No, you can always get Harrison Bader. He's a very similar player.
Right, but you had that 18 team, and they won 118 games or what have you, and still people aren't satisfied.
No, and there's this like annoying reflexive muscle around here where like there's apathy, but then anytime the Red Sox get brought up, it's like this. And now you have a reason to bitch right this second. But I mean, been here since 2006. Just this only team that's just like apathy or complaining, and it's like this boring complaining too. I always it's a real turnoff for me when I hear someone complaining about it. You're complaining about them in July. You're complaining like either do you care or because you're complaining or you don't care.
Right, Fred, like St. Louis, the Cardinals fan base or what have you. It's just fun to go to a game in a lot of ways. And I think around here, I don't know what happened, but for whatever reason, you're right. It just became, everywhere you go, people just complain. No matter how many games they won.
The ownership got scared last season because no one went to the games at the end of the season, and the ownership depends on that, unlike here. And it scared the hell out of that Cardinals front office, so they actually went and spent money this offseason.
Which is why I don't understand why the Red Sox didn't go out and spend money this offseason. They should be scared. There's not going to be anybody in those seats in April and May.
After opening day.
Maybe they think out of town fans. Maybe they don't even care because
Tom Warner
so
said
small.
that. Tom said that they'll be the tourists and that'll take care of their revenue and everything. Like that.
That's the other part.
That's not pleasing your fan base.
They're not speaking well. They're putting guys in front of the media that shouldn't be in front of the media. Tom Warner saying the record is probably the most important thing, but we really are focused on the Fenway experience. If you're a fan and you hear that, what are you supposed to think?
Well, I would guess you'd get more Wally the Monster.
Well, that's for the Dan Roaches of the world.
I would imagine they'd have several Wallies walking around. The best is like when the dude in the Wally costume recognizes you and he's like, puts up a fist and you're like, hey, what's up, dude?
That is a good feeling.
It's like, yeah, you know who
what's up,
I am.
Wally?
You know who I am. Hey, Wally. Dan Roach is here, but yeah. So, I mean, I'm not listening to it, and I'm not participating in once the season gets going. The daily Red Sox talking. It's apathy. I mean, It is what it is, and it's too long a season. And it's good for me because I like taking my son to the games. Yeah, there'll be more empty
tickets,
more empty seats to go wander into.
Easy.
Much to Joe Murray's consternation, who says that's my territory.